Alright, in this video, I'm gonna tell you how I fought for an alcoholic dad and why you should get into fighting, get into weightlifting, and a bit of story time on me. To get a bit of context, growing up, I was quite skinny, didn't have any confidence, and I was always into movies like, like Troy, like fighting movies, like the OG Karate Kid movies, Miyagi, and just all the action movies like James Bond. And I always thought like being strong, being fast, being able to fight, being an action movie figure was the best thing to do. So as a kid, my parents put me into karate and Kyokushin karate. And if you guys don't know what Kyokushin karate is, it's basically full contact karate. You punch each other up. You can't punch to the face, but you can kick to the face, you can kick to the legs, you can mess each other up, and it's multiple fights. So what I did was normally it'll be 2 fights or 3 fights in a day. You wouldn't know who you're fighting, but it's always a good fight. And growing up as a kid, I didn't have the confidence, like I said. I didn't feel good. I was quite skinny, so fighting was a good outlet for me. And I had a bunch of stuff going on at home. I wasn't very happy. And what I mean when I said fighting for an alcoholic dad, I meant my dad. He would drink a ton, but the only time he didn't, drink was at my fights. Was when I was fighting really hard, when I was, because I didn't have a lot going on. Like I said, I was skinny and I wasn't doing well in school and I wasn't doing well at home. And I thought the only thing going for me was fighting. And, I would always win these fights because how am I going to, lose if my dad would come to the fight and not drink? Like I'm fighting for someone else's health, not for my own health, right? So that's the whole point, like, of me fighting, of doing a bunch of fights. I started when I was 6 and I kept on fighting, right? I kept on fighting until I think I was about 16, 17, 18. A sensei at the time, bless him, I'm not going to say his name in this video, but he died from a brain tumor. And going after that, I was kind of thinking, what am I going to do? Because I respected my sensei a lot and I still loved karate, but it was kind of like a small block in the road of me getting to the next step. So I kept on fighting, kept on doing, a bunch of tournaments and fueling that anger, fueling my confidence. And even till 18, I wasn't the most secure person. I still had things going on. I still skinny as well until the age of about 16. I say 16, 17, when I started doing bodyweight training. I had a pull-up bar that I'm not sure if you guys seen on Insta, but I had a pull-up bar put into my house, and I was doing calisthenics, dips, press-ups, squats, pull-ups, out in the sun, out in the rain, when it was snowing, and I pushed myself because I was skinny, right? And obviously that's when I started getting to more the weightlifting side of things as well, because being skinny, I didn't like it. Obviously I was a somewhat dangerous kid, but I had a skinny frame, right? I was this athletic kid, but I had nothing. I had a skinny frame. I didn't feel confident about it, so I started getting into a bit of weights as well behind my mum's back, because my mum thought that if I did weights, it would stop my growth. I was a short and skinny kid, so not the best. And kept on coming to my fight sober, kept on watching me train sober. And he only drank afterwards. So, like I said, it's the biggest reason why I kept on fighting. I didn't like fighting as much. When you're a kid, Kyokushin karate wasn't the most like friendly karate. Like they would push you to a limit. There was a time when I was a kid, like we were punching walls. Like this guy called Mario, I think his kid's Kyokushin champion now, Polish champion. But we'd be punching walls and bleeding, and a lot of people quit after that. When I was like 7, 8 years old. But I kept on going because, like I said, I fought for my dad to stop him drinking. When you fight for someone else, when you don't fight for yourself, you become a different man. So, I kept on fighting until 18, and he stopped drinking at 18. And I thought, my sensei, I had a new sensei that didn't really respect me as much, didn't really, not respect me, but didn't really care for me as much. And my dad stopped drinking. So I kept on winning competitions and stuff, but I did this last fight, and the last fight was for my old sensei. It was to do with, because we always had a fight every December, and this December fight was for, my sensei. So I trained really hard for it, and like I said, I was 18. I was the only 18-year-old at that tournament. It was all like 18 and above. And this one was like, there's no gloves. It's pure like just you punch bare knuckle. You know, you have to, if you want to score points to the head, you had to knock them out. You can do flying knees, you know, axe kicks, all that. It was a proper fight. And it's for my sensei. I trained really hard for it. I trained super hard. And I lost. I lost my fight. I lost, you know, I won the first fight. I won the second fight. But the third last fight, I fought someone from the same club as me that, you know, maybe this is my ego, but I knew I could have beat him. I beat him in training sometimes. I know his weakness, but my third fight, I pushed myself too hard in the first two fights, and I lost, and I hated it. And I remember like I lost the fight. My leg was messed up. I was sitting down. I was completely messed up. And the first thing that sensei did when he came up to me was, he was like, "Oh, you did amazing. Like you fought so hard. You should definitely do a tournament. You should definitely fight again next week or whatever." And that's the thing. Like, I'm not a soft person, but I remember sitting there with my leg messed up, thinking, "Why do you not like care? Like, I literally lost my fight, and you're out here saying, oh, you should fight next week. You should, you should definitely keep on going." Like, the motivation wasn't there anymore. My dad was fine. I only fought because my sensei, you know, to bless his soul in a way. And at that moment, I stopped fighting. My dad was fine, and I just got straight into weightlifting, to doing bodybuilding, to getting bigger, and I started doing a big bulk. I went from 50 kg to about 60-ish kg, 65, 68 kg for my fight, to 74 kg. My biggest was about 76 kg, was the biggest bulk at my peak. And, you know, I got into bodybuilding, I got into getting big and whatever. And that's what I did, weightlifting, because I didn't want to fight anymore. I was like, fuck my sensei in a way. You know, he doesn't care for me. No one in the club really like looked after me in a way. Apart from my one friend, my dad was there for me, a couple of people were there for me. And then they knew I was heartbroken, but like, you know, when you lose a fight, you know how it feels, right? Like if you ever fought before, you know how it feels. You feel like a bitch. You feel like you have all these thoughts thinking you could do more, but really you've done your best if you really done your best, right? And I done my best and I lost. And after that, I had no motivation to fight anymore. So I just did weightlifting. I bulked up. I thought, had a bunch of muscle and trying to get girls. And, you know, at the time, like I said before, I was quite insecure. I didn't get girls. I had a skinny frame. I was quite short. So getting girls was quite hard. Being confident wasn't easy to me. It wasn't the most natural thing to me, because growing up, I was more introverted. Growing up, I didn't, I had a bunch of stuff going on. I had my alcoholic dad. I was, I had all these thoughts in my brain, and I didn't have a lot of confidence to back it up because nothing was going for me, right? Apart from the fighting. So I got into weightlifting, I bulked up, and my face was all puffy because I was on shit diet. I was on a bodybuilding diet, the bullshit protein powders and the mass gainers, and I did a liter of milk, which was horrible. And I kept on doing that, right? I kept on doing that till I was 2021. I'm now 21. And I kept on doing that. I thought being this bulked up, guy with muscles is cool. And, I was leaning down a tiny bit. I leaned down to like 73 kg, so from 76 to 73. And this one thing happened that made me fight. It was not because of my dad. It was not because I wanted to fight. It's because I had someone mess me the fuck up. And then that's when I realized that fighting and weightlifting is the way to go. Not being a big bodybuilder, not being a skinny little karate kid. No, fighting and weightlifting is what made me the man I was today. What gave me the confidence, what propelled me to be the man, the better man. Because what happened was, I was in the gym and I was, shoulder pressing. I was doing a bit of weightlifting. I think it was overhead pressing. This little boxer came up to me. I'm not going to say his name, but this little Irish prick. If he's watching this video, he knows who he is. Like, he's a prick. But he came up to me And I spoke to him in the gym before. I work at this gym, and he came up to me and he said, "Oh, you right, mate? Like, you want to have a little spar? Like, you're quite a big lad. Let's have a little spar. I need it. No one's in the gym right now." So I was like, "Fuck it." I haven't done any fighting for a long time, and I kind of missed it, and wasn't busy in the gym. I thought, why not? So came into the gym, and I've never done boxing before. I've done a bit of Muay Thai here and there, but not a lot of boxing. And he was on the bag. It was quite a fast lad. He was like, "Okay, right, let's do it." So without warm up, my shoulders fried. I got some random gloves on. I thought, let me stop fighting this guy. And because you're doing this weightlifting, you don't do any fighting, and this bodybuilding, I was doing a bunch of weights. The way I moved, my cardio was shit, and I was fighting this guy. I was throwing hooks. I didn't land a single shot, not one shot on this guy. I didn't even tap his head, nothing. And this guy would throw overhands, and he had this hook, this really quick hook, Ryan Garcia hook, quick, back, and my face was getting pummeled, and my nose started bleeding. I couldn't see shit. I remember first time ever boxing, you should be slowly into. You should do some pad work. You should do some you should do something beforehand. But I didn't do any boxing really, apart from, like I said, a bit of pad work and Muay Thai. I had no experience with getting pummeled in the face. Obviously, getting kicked in the face is different. I know how to avoid that, but I didn't know what to do when I was getting punched in the face. So I got absolutely pummeled. Nose was bleeding like crazy, and that's when I realized I have to learn to fight. Being this puffed up bodybuilder that's impressive with the muscles just is not even that impressive. So I decided to do some boxing, a bit of Muay Thai on the side, and weightlifting on the side. And I got into a certain aspect where I was overtraining, but over time I knew how to train. I did doing more boxing. I did my first ever boxing fight, which I will show you guys. I'll do a quick montage real quick.
Yes, Spence! Yes, Spence! Come on, Spence! Follow up! Come on, Spence! Nice! Follow up! Follow up! Follow up! Follow up! Get him! Follow up!
They make them the same.
Same, elastic, same everything. Whoa!
But yeah, as you guys can see, the karate training, the tournaments, and the boxing, I did quite well on both. And what I'm trying to say is that being the man, if you want to be a all-round man, just weightlifting is not worth it. It's not worth it. So I'm going to quickly give you guys some value, some free value on how to train if you want to get into weightlifting, do a bit of fighting, and why you should do it, because it's so important, right? Everyone's trying to push this oh, you got to weightlift only, you got to fight only. Why not be both? Why not be the man? So I'm going to quickly minimize this so you guys can see what I mean. But real quick, if you guys haven't fought before, or you get into fighting or whatever, These are the 5 things I learned from my personal experience from fighting. And the first point is, being scared is completely fine. It says right here, yeah, fine. Being scared is completely fine. You're not a pussy. Being a pussy is saying you want to fight but not fighting, or going into a fight and copping out last second. And that's the thing. You're gonna be scared. You don't know who this guy is that you're gonna fight, or if you go to a fight club and you're doing sparring or you're doing training, it's scary. You don't know who you're fighting. You don't know how good they are. There's always this aspect of danger that you have to look out for, and that's natural, right? It's fine. And if you guys watch Mike Tyson, he said before the ring, like, he would always be super scared. He'll be crying. He'd be super scared. And he was the hardest guy at the time, hardest heavyweight ever. But as soon as he got close to the ring, he built more confidence and more confidence. Then when he was in the ring, he was a beast. And that's the thing. You're not a pussy. If you went into the ring and you're going to fight, or you went into sparring and you're going to fight, you're not a pussy for it, right? The second point is the humbling experience that breeds confidence. You got to understand, if you was like me and you thought, oh, I'm a big bodybuilder, I can fight, you're stupid. You're dumb. You're actually dumb. Think about it, right? Because when you actually fight, no muscle's really gonna save you. It's more about the technique, about the cardio aspect of it. Learning how to fight is about going out there and putting the reps in and doing more fighting and doing more pad work. Like, you can't just go into a fight and think, oh, all my muscle and being big is gonna save you. There's all these like bodybuilders out now thinking they could fight, like Larry Wells, for example. You saw that. He got messed up. And it's so true. All the muscle won't save you. But at the same time, muscles and defending yourself is super important, right? You can't just have muscle and not defend yourself. But at the same time, you can't be a skinny little prick. You can't be a little twink, right? You have to have both aspects to look impressive and feel strong and be dangerous and be fit at the same time. And the last thing is the winning thought process and gladiator mindset. When you go into the ring, when you go into sparring, when you do anything in life, you must have a winning thought process. You must have a lottery ticket just about to check in. Because if you go into a fight, like if I went to my fight, for example, and I thought, oh, this guy's so good. Because I had that, right? When you're about to fight, you see kind of who you're going to fight, because you see the weight category and like you see who looks exactly like you. And I saw this guy and he finished shell guard and he was hitting the pads really fast. And I had that losing mindset for a sec, like, oh, I might lose. This guy looks like he's impressive. This guy looks like he can fight. But you shouldn't have that, because as soon as you think you can't fight, as soon as you go into the ring, as soon as you go into a spar, into anything in life, and you think you can't do it, that's when you lose. If I went to my fight and I thought I can lose, I would hesitate. I would think, oh shit, he's gonna beat me up. Oh, I'm scared. Oh, and then you become a victim, and the last thing you want to be is a victim. So if you want to win, have a winning thought process before you even go in. The last thing is gladiator mindset. These gladiators, if you know anything about it, they go into a gladiator ring and they would actively know that they might die at any time. And that's the thing with fighting. You might not die, but you can get knocked out, and that's the closest thing to being dead in a way, right? You can actually die from a fight. Like, there's so many fights from, obviously I was in an interclub small fight, but if you're at a high level or even at a low level, there's some times where people actually die. If it's not run properly, people die from getting constantly knocked down, knocked out. If you do like hard weight cuts, for example, people die from fights. You gotta understand, this is not some small little thing. So when you get comfortable with, like a gladiator, you go into the ring and you're in front of everyone and you feel scared, understand that it's fine to be, it's fine to be scared. That get comfortable with possibly dying, possibly get knocked out, but still go in there thinking you can win, thinking that you can succeed, and that survive or die, right? It's like, you have to win. There's no like, there's what I'm trying to drill here. It's like, there's no like, oh, I'm here to participate. No, you're in there to kill the guy. You're in there to win. You're the winner. You must think that. You must think you're the winner at all times. Every single time you think you're a loser, that's when you lose. I want to draw that into you, because this like, oh, I want to participate in like, oh, it's fine if you lose. It's fine if you lose, right? I'm not saying here like it's, if you lost a fight and you're a loser for it, but any time that you tell yourself that you're not a winner, and you don't go in there with a winning mindset, that's when you lose, and that's when the battle is lost, right? So that's the 5 things I learned. And the last thing will be on how to be fit and dangerous. Like I said before, being both is how you become the man. So if you want to be a pro fighter, that's not for you, right? There's obviously training behind, how to be a pro fighter, and there's like strength conditioning, and there's all these little things that you have to do. And being a pro fighter, you have to be locked in 100% of the fighting. But if you want to be the strong guy, if you want to be the fit guy with muscle that can, still defend himself, that feels confident, this is it. So weightlifting structure. If you want to lock in, you have to be doing 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with a rest day for Tuesday and Thursday, and do full body or upper, low, upper. You just choose what you enjoy. Me personally, I do an upper, low, upper. I personally enjoy it. I don't like full body. But obviously full body is better because you hit your muscle groups 3 times a week and you recover from Tuesday and Thursday, right? So it's perfect. And especially if you're busy, you can knock out a routine in 45 minutes. But if you're like me and you enjoy some parts of the bodybuilding aspect, then doing upper, low, upper is perfect. Just make sure, like I said, rest in between and do low volume, right? Not super low volume, but start with low volume compounds and do some isolations with the 3 days a week. Don't do crazy high volume. The reason why I'm doing 3 days split is because you want to recover. If you want to do both boxing or MMA and weightlifting, you have to balance both. You have to recover in between, right? When I was overtraining, I was doing loads of weights and loads of fighting. I didn't recover properly, and it led to problems with me fighting. I couldn't fight, I couldn't punch as fast. I felt fatigued. I had brain fog all the time. So that is not what you want to do. You want to recover. And if you're more into your cardio, if you're getting more into like getting better at fighting, then I'd advise doing twice a week full body and then a sprint once a week. And sprinting is amazing. It's one of the best cardio you can do. You can boost your testosterone. There's a full body movement as well, so it's amazing. It works on explosiveness. It's the best things you can do on improving your cardio and also improving your fighting, right? If you want to do more extra cardio, like I said, do more sprinting or do more plyometrics. If you want to do extra weights, don't do another weightlifting session. I want to do a push day, another push day, or another. You have to balance both, right? You want to be doing both. So I'd add neck training, forearm training, or trap training, because obviously having a big neck is impressive. It makes you look more aesthetic, makes you look more intimidating, and it's actually better for fighting, right? If you have a stronger neck, getting punched in the face, which you want to avoid, but there's a whole point. But if you get hit in the face more, you're more likely to get less concussions, to be more resilient because you trained your neck. Same as forearm and trap training. If you have strong traps, you look, have a better physique. And forearms, if you have stronger forearms, you just complete your physique, right? And what I forgot to mention as well, on top of the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I want you to do ab training and stretching afterwards. So you're flexible and so you have strong core, which is going to help with the fighting as well. And it's also going to help with looking aesthetic, right? If you have, especially if you train the lower abs with your ab training, you're going to look more aesthetic that way. So that's what you want to do for weightlifting. And for the fight structure, you want to be doing twice a week, right? Obviously, if you feel like you can do more, do 3 times a week. But what I do personally, I do sparring and pad work. So at least an hour of sparring, or an hour and a half sometimes. Not hard sparring, just purely focus on the technique. And then pad work. So I'll do the sparring and then pad work. I'll focus on whatever I need to focus on. And normally it's just basic fundamentals, just like basic boxing kind of pad work. And then on the second day, I'll do fundamental drills. So footwork drills, or even more pad work or bag work, whatever I need to work on my personalized goal for 4 to 6 weeks. So if I want to improve my jab, I'll do jab training drills. And I'll do footwork drills for that to work on my jab. Or if I want to work on body shots or whatever it is, you have to work on drills and a personalized goal for your thing. I forgot to mention as well, like MMA and boxing and Muay Thai, you can do all of it, right? You can do, if you want to do MMA, if you want to do Muay Thai, choose your fighting sport. And I advise these ones because they're most realistic to street fights, right? Just doing BJJ is not it. Because imagine in a street fight, a guy just hits you in the face, knocks you out or whatever, and you don't have to defend yourself on your feet. What's the point? You're on the ground now, your head's all messed up, and what, you're gonna grapple? You get like, what's the point, right? I'd highly advise learning to be comfortable on your feet, right? The best thing you can do is, if a guy's about to hit you, about to defend yourself on the street, you throw a 1-2 and you run for your life. That's why sprinting's so important as well. You don't know if it's like a knife, if he has a knife on him, or he has a gun. And the best way to do, forget your ego, right? You wanna like have a little stand up, forget your ego. Throw a 1-2 and run for your life. That's what I would advise on a street fight. But you wanna do groundwork as well, that's important, because some fights go to the floor. So MMA is quite important, but doing BJJ only is not worth it. I'm telling you right now, learning to stand up, learning to be comfortable on your feet is way more important. But anyway, I've been rambling on for the longest time. This is my first kind of presentation, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too much. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, book a call in the description below. I went from a unconfident kid that didn't like himself, that was short, that was skinny, to a confident, masculine physique that can fight. So, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Us!